Welcome back to another episode of the Cold Blooded Sports Podcast. Today, just going to talk about things we like, dislike from free agency, just overall, just recap the free agency. But this morning, I think the biggest story of day two of free agency is definitely that Tom Brady announced via Instagram that he's not going to return to the Patriots. And so, I mean, this opens up windows for other teams to come in and get him. I think the two most favorite spots are the Buccaneers and the Chargers. Me
hmm
personally, I don't really. I would have stayed in New England if I was Tom, but it seems like he wants a new chapter, a new challenge. So I'm gonna kick it over to my co-host
Yeah.
Rob, and we'll talk about where he thinks he should go or where he would like to see him go.
I mean, well, because he's not coming back to Tampa or to New England, I would say he should go to Tampa Bay. I just feel like he has so many weapons there, and I feel like the Chargers they don't really have a lot of weapons, or compared to what Tampa Bay offers. I do wish Tom would have stayed in New England because I feel like him leaving New England now is gonna like damper his career because we have like how like every legend kind of they stick with one team that they're known as a legend with, and then they go off to other teams like Randy Moss going to the Raiders or the Patriots, or someone like LT going to the Jets or whatever like towards the end of his career. But yeah, I feel like if he is leaving, which he is, I think he should go to Tampa Bay because they have Chris Godwin, um, OJ Howard, Mike Evans, and Bruce Arians, who also he's a good coach. He's been around the league for a long time, and I think he could thrive there. But I don't know if he'll go far. It would be fun to watch him play against Drew Brees twice a year, though. So that's my 2 cents about it.
Yeah, I think Tampa. He should definitely go to Tampa. I mean, one, Tampa's offensive line is a lot better than the Chargers. The Chargers have solid weapons, but that offensive line is pretty bad. And yeah, they have the sixth pick, and you could bring in a rookie, but what's that going to do immediately to help this offensive line when it's so terrible? And I mean,
Right.
also with the Chargers too, is you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and they're loaded. They're bringing back mostly their whole team outside of Kendall Fuller, who got paid last night, and
Yeah.
just being in like a franchise like that, I don't know. I mean, I would have loved to see him stay in New England because I mean, it's kind of like I love this analogy. It's like Jalen Rose. He said it on talking about basketball players. It's just like their lost tape years. Or was Paul Pierce one of them? It's like when you like you're old and you're just playing on another team and nobody like everybody doesn't remember like he said like the Daniel Tomlinson on the Jets or um, Jerry Rice
Yeah.
on the Seahawks or just stuff like that. Like people don't remember that. Like Tom will always be remembered for
A
being a Patriot
Patriot.
and what he did for the game and for that organization. I mean, it's really interesting. I don't know where New England goes from here. I mean,
I was about to talk about that too.
there's not many guys left on the market. Could they get in the trade for Andy Dalton? Could they be Cam Newton's requesting a trade and that whole drama with Carolina? Could they maybe take a chance on Jameis Winston? Who knows? I mean, those are three names, three guys that could maybe fit. Out of those three,
Well,
who
with
do you think would be the best for the Patriots, or anybody else that you think
so I
would
have
be?
someone else that I think that people are kind of forgetting about. Nick Foles, man. Maybe Nick Foles goes to New England. I don't know. Do the Patriots have a lot of cap room, or are they kind of on like the lower side? Do you know if they're
I think they're kind of in the middle. Like they don't have a ton of cap, but they're not like Pittsburgh
yeah? I
Steelers,
mean,
like $1 million.
right, right. I mean, honestly, I would try and make a move for Nick Foles, and if not that, I don't think Andy Dalton's the move because Andy Dalton, I don't know. You know, I if I had to choose, it would be either Nick Foles or Cam Newton. Cam Newton wouldn't be bad in New England, but I don't know if he would fit with how Belichick plays. But yeah, because Belichick's not used to having a running, like a fast quarterback. It would kind of be weird to see how they help him thrive because back in North Carolina with the Panthers, Cam Newton would have all these plays designed just for him, and it's like Tom Brady was never like that. So it would be weird to see how he would adjust. But I would say go get Nick Foles. That's what I would do.
Yeah, and Belichick has always kind of flirted with the idea of bringing in a mobile quarterback. I mean, I think if he took a chance on a Jameis Winston on like a prove it deal, I mean, hey, who knows if anybody can fix Jameis Winston, it'd
It's
probably
him
be Bill Belichick because he'd be scared out of his mind to throw an interception and see
to
that
miss practice or something.
hooded
Yep.
devil on the sideline just staring at you. But I mean, the Patriots are
Yeah.
definitely in an interesting situation. I mean, who knows? Maybe they could draft somebody, maybe somebody falls, maybe that Jordan Love slips in the draft, maybe a Herbert slips in the draft, maybe somebody like that,
Yeah,
and they can roll out, just get a Band-Aid, a 1 year solution. I mean, they do have Jared Stidham in the building, but I don't know how much faith they necessarily have in him. He was a fourth round pick from a couple years ago. Tom Brady didn't practice a lot, so he does have a lot of practice with the first teamers, but I just don't know if you can necessarily roll into the season with him being your number one quarterback. I think they
for
definitely need
sure.
to address it. Maybe somebody comes available via trade that we didn't expect. Maybe a Derek Carr, somebody of
I
that
was gonna
nature.
say, with Hopkins going to Arizona, you might like look at Deshaun Watson being pissed off in Texas and wanting to go up somewhere else.
Yeah, he
That
should definitely
it's
request a
it's
trade.
it's
I mean,
unlikely.
Deshaun don't deserve that.
Yeah, but we'll get to that later. But it is unlikely that that would happen because the Texans might want to keep him even though he lost all of his friends. But maybe the Patriots are known for making crazy deals and they're known for being shockers. And with Belichick being your GM,
Yeah.
he knows best. So who knows?
Who knows? Maybe they convince Andrew Luck to come out of retirement. You know the Patriots have weird ways of doing
Oh,
things.
geez.
But now we're getting off topic. Let's get we can transition to the Texans now. The Texans, Bill O'Brien is officially he's kind of their GM. I think he's
Mm,
taken over. He's taken Dave Gettleman's spot as the worst general manager in the league.
hmm
You trade
Yeah, that
Hopkins. He has
was
3 years left on his deal. He wanted more money, so you trade him for a second round
which
pick,
is
a second,
David
and I
Johnson.
believe a fourth, and David Johnson. It was a fourth round
Like you
pick
couldn't
swap
even.
and David
Oh man.
Johnson. You traded a top three receiver for injury prone running back after giving up all your picks and mortgaging your future for Laramie Tunsil and Kenny Stills last year, giving up 2 1s,
hmm
a 1, a 2, and a 1 and a 2 next year, I believe, or something. It was just an outlandish haul. And
Yeah, it was
just to get
horrible.
a top tier second round pick, I mean, you see what the Bills gave up for Diggs. Like you're telling me, like
hmm
why didn't
Why didn't you
Bill
ask for a
O'Brien
first?
called the Bills? Why didn't he call the Bills? If the Bills wanted a receiver that bad, if they were going to give up that much for Diggs, imagine what they
Maybe
might
they
have thrown
were.
something else in there for Hopkins. I know a lot of
Maybe they
teams
were
at the back
scared.
end of the first round, they would have thrown a similar haul at the Texans. If they would have got a haul
Yeah.
like that back, I understand it. Like, okay, that's good for the team. You have no picks. But a second round pick and a running back, David Johnson, who's on a massive contract for a running back, it's just the value
hmm
isn't there. And you have to understand positional value. A receiver
Yeah.
like that is way more important than a running back.
Yeah, you see, my theory about it as to why they didn't do it with the Bills is because they're in the same conference. But still, like, I don't care if they're in the same conference. If you can get that much for him, then take it. You know what I mean? And like they could have even called the Eagles, because my team needs receivers, and Roseman likes to make crazy trades. I feel like, yeah, like what you said, that's just a really bad trade. Trading for David Johnson, who might even on a good season play 8 games for you, that's terrible. Next year's fourth round pick might as well be a fifth round pick because the Cardinals sure as heck won't be bad next year. And this year's second round pick, the Texans might, blow it for all we know. They might just completely whiff on the pick. So I don't know. And then, aside from that, you also have to like take into account how bad like the locker room is going to be because Deshaun Watson's pissed off now. Duke Johnson might be pissed off, people on the defense might be pissed off, so it all makes a domino effect. But it all starts with not making your coach your GM, unless you're someone like Belichick who can handle it. Because we saw how that was with Chip Kelly when he was the GM. He made stupid trades, and I don't know why they let Bill O'Brien become the GM because you can't let a coach who has emotional attachments to players and feelings towards players control what their destiny is.
And then it gets worse because they were making moves that didn't really make sense. Like, yes, Randall Cobb's a nice player, but I don't think anybody was fiending to get Randall Cobb day one. I don't think he's a guy you
No.
necessarily have to sign day one. Also, who else did they sign? I believe they signed Eric Murray. He's a defensive back. He's floated around the league. And he's also a
Yep.
guy I don't think you had to
They brought back
pay
Hargrave.
that much money day one. I mean, if Vernon Hargraves, that's
Yep.
fine. Their cornerback position is putrid. I mean, this roster has just become horrible. I mean, the defense is
Yeah.
JJ Watt isn't getting any younger. Whitney Merciless isn't getting any younger. You traded away your best
Nope.
receiver, so now you only have two deep threats and an underneath
The
guy,
one
and
thing
two of
that
them
I can
have
agree with
injury
them with,
concerns. Will Fuller will never play 16 games. He can't. Randall Cobb, he could be injury prone a little bit.
we
And then
did see one thing
and then
though.
you're taking back David Johnson, who's also injury prone. So it's just a mess.
Right. I mean, one thing that I can get behind them doing is bringing back Darren Fells, because we saw what he did with Watson last year, and that's kind of like his safety blanket, I guess you could say. And I think that's like a smart move. But other than that, yeah, like what you were saying, there's nothing that makes sense about what they're doing at all right now.
Yeah, that's my big complaint is like the guys that they targeted, like those are guys you can wait a while. Like you can be like, hey man, Randall Cobb, Eric Murray, we're interested in you. See what you can get from around the league, and if nobody offers you, we'll come in a couple days, a couple weeks. Like he's not a priority free agent. Like he's not somebody you target day one and be like, that's my guy, I got to go get him. And also they made Hopkins available the day that they traded him. That is horrible. Just
Yeah,
just why would you just that's probably the first offer they got. Like I wouldn't just give Hopkins away as soon as somebody offered me something. That's not how you play the market. It's just
for
horrible.
sure. Um, let's move on to someone else now. Let's talk about, since we're on the same topic of receivers. Let's talk about Stephon Diggs. How about that though? Like that's crazy. I don't know what
That's a
we've
haul.
seen what
That's a
Oh,
haul.
that it sure is. And like we've seen what's been going on the last two trade deadlines. Stephon Diggs doesn't like being in Minnesota. Maybe he just hates Kirk Cousins. Maybe he doesn't like being the second fiddle to Adam Thielen. Um, but going to Buffalo, that's kind of crazy because I feel like that makes them, with Tom Brady out the door, that might make them the favorites for the AFC East. I think it's also great to have that deep threat. I mean, they have John Brown, of course, he's fast,
But
but
yeah,
John
he's a
Brown's
number.
not,
Stephon
Stephon
Diggs is the
Diggs.
number one. Yeah, Diggs. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Brown is a
Like,
nice deep
and then you
threat,
have
take the
Cole
top off
Beasley
the
too,
defense. Yeah, they have a
right?
well-rounded receiving core. I say they have like a top 5 receiving core right now. With those three
Yeah,
guys, they're solid. I mean, maybe not top
yeah,
5,
yeah.
maybe
And
top
then you
10ish.
have
They're a good receiving core.
yeah. And then you have, Devin Singletary who can run the ball and also catch it out the backfield. And then you got Josh Allen
Dawson
who doesn't
Knox.
care. Josh Allen, Dawson Knox as well, yeah, the tight end. And then also, like I was saying, Josh Allen, he can chuck it. He's not scared to. Um, but yeah, I think that's crazy. Although they did give up a lot in like what is it, a first, a fourth, and a fifth or something like that. Really
First, fourth,
crazy.
I don't know. I think it's a first, fourth, fifth, and a fourth next year.
Yeah, I mean, either way
And
though,
they got back
Stephon
a
Diggs is
seventh
kind of
this
worth
year.
it. Yeah,
I mean, we'll see if it works. Hopefully it works. I mean, we still have to see if Josh Allen can get him the ball. Josh Allen,
mm-hmm.
he was overthrowing John Brown, overthrowing guys, which is a surprise. I mean, I thought his deep accuracy was like his
Was the
best
best.
trait coming out, and
Yeah,
his short accuracy was kind of like not his weakness. But this past season, he kind of struggled with his with the deep, and he was good short to intermediate. But I mean, that's a solid move. I think when you're a team like that, and they have a window right now, so they got to try to capitalize it on that
oh
window.
yeah,
They got Josh Allen on a rookie deal. They have a lot of money. We'll see what else they do. Maybe they can get into the Jadeveon Clowney sweepstakes. Maybe they make a move for Yannick Ngakoue to kind of bolster this
those would
defense
not be
up a little
bad
bit.
pickups. Yeah, those wouldn't be bad. Um, moving on to the next free agent I want to talk about. Let's talk about Byron Jones, man, breaking the bank in Miami, staying in South Beach. He wanted to, move from the NFC East because what we knew, like from what the media told us, was that it was going to be the Dolphins, the Raiders, and Eagles. And all day yesterday, no one heard a word about the Dolphins. It was all between the Eagles and Raiders. And the Dolphins swooped in, gave him 5 years, $82.5 million, and I believe there was like $70 million guaranteed there, which is pretty crazy. The main reason that I heard was that he wanted to get a fresh start from the NFC East, and I mean, I'm sure also there's no state taxes in Florida, and aside from that, you're also living in South Beach. So that's pretty good. But
What's an interesting
um,
note about them? My bad. I don't mean to cut you off. They have the two highest paid corners in the league with
no,
Xavier
yeah, they're good.
Howard and Byron Jones.
Byron Jones,
So
yeah,
that secondary better perform. I mean, Howard did delete all his stuff off Instagram or whatever,
so
so
who
maybe
knows?
he's on the move. Um, But I mean, I think what they
Yeah.
did, they had to pay in this Belichickian style defense. They're looking for their Stephon Gilmore. I don't know, like obviously Byron Jones isn't Stephon Gilmore, but compared to what else they have, he's definitely their best corner. So hopefully that can
Mm-hmm.
work out for them. I mean, Miami, he's probably the best player they signed. I don't really like their free agency class as a
Oh
whole. I
no,
think they're just
horrible
kind of
so
throwing
far.
money around for no reason. I mean, I like the Byron Jones. He's a scheme fit. Kyle Van Noy, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, 51 million is a little pricey for Kyle Van Noy,
Yeah.
but if you want a guy, you know what you're getting out of Kyle Van Noy in that scheme from coaching him. But I just think that Eric Flowers was a bad signing for a
Emmanuel
guy that's going to play
Ogba.
guard. He's just a
Yep.
guy. The Shaq Lawson. I mean, I guess they're trying to get their own. What's his name from Detroit? His name is escaping me.
Flowers,
Yeah, Trey
right?
Flowers. They're trying to get their Trey
Yeah.
Flowers for their defense, but he never really lived up to it in Buffalo. I mean, they're just taking a lot of risks, throwing around a lot of money. Um,
Yeah.
I
And
think they
maybe
they
it's
definitely, in my opinion, they've had one of the worst free agencies, just spending all this money. And you're not going to fix your offensive line through free agency. I mean, we've seen
no.
the top tier guys got franchise tag, like Joe Thuney got franchise tag, and I don't even think they made an offer for a guy like Glasgow who went to the Broncos, and the Broncos won
Yeah.
that because he's an elite run blocker. Or they weren't
And
even
I
in the
mean,
conference sweepstakes, and those were the
if
only
they're
two
throwing
elite
that much
offensive
money
linemen.
around, right? Like if they're throwing around money for Eric Flowers, why not spend 20 more million for Big V, who's actually proven himself in a Super Bowl? You know what I mean? Or like Rick Wagner, why not get involved in that? I mean, there's even Brian Balaga in there, who I would still take over Eric Flowers. I just feel like maybe they felt obligated to spend money because they had so much. But I mean, like, you don't really have to, you know? Like, why not just spend it all on 1 year deals on vets? You know what I mean? Like, you still want to
I
tank, I'm sure.
mean,
Like, Miami doesn't want to win right now. Like, you have all these
yeah,
good picks,
Brandon
and then
Scherf was
next
also
year,
franchise tag, but I mean, like just
yeah,
like paying $30 million for just a guy, a guard, like he's solid. He's definitely way better at guard than he was ever at tackle. But paying $30 million just for a guy, like I'm not a
yeah,
big fan of
I don't
that. I
see
mean,
it.
there's a lot of offensive linemen that I want to talk about that I think were not very good signings. Now, like you
No, well,
mentioned Big V. Like I know Big V brings versatility, but the Lions let go Rick Wagner. They cut him.
mm-hmm,
The Packers picked him up 2 years, $11 million, and then they also let Glasgow go.
yep,
They replaced two guys with Big V for $50 million. Who's solid? He's a solid lineman, but I mean, if you could have kept those two over Big V, I think that makes more sense. But
yeah,
still, and then
I
I'm
don't
not
know
a fan
that.
of the Jets. The Jets going to get the tight end tackle guy from Seattle, Fant, for $30 million a year. I'm
Oh,
not a
George
big fan of
Fant.
that.
Yeah,
Um,
one thing
I,
that I
I
do
love
like
what
though is the
Cleveland did on the O
Browns.
line.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yep.
because Cleveland got
Um,
Conklin right now. They have a top 10 pick. So you compare Conklin, who's pretty young, they can compare him and pair, say, Tristan Wirfs, Andrew Thomas, Mekhi Becton, whoever's
Becton,
there at 10. They can pair them two together, and then they have a top 15, top 10 bookend
J.C.
tackle duo.
Treader,
And
Joel
now
Bitonio.
because their offensive, the interior part of their offensive line is elite. That's why I think the
Yep.
Browns and the Broncos were my big winners from day one because they addressed their offensive line. I mean,
Yeah, and like
Glasgow
you need that
is a
to protect
solid
your
player.
quarterback too.
Exactly. With Drew Lock, the Broncos have done. They're one of my winners for the offseason in general. Picking up
Yeah.
Bouye, getting a low end number one corner for a 4th round pick that allows them to maybe
Mm-hmm.
go receiver in the 1st round. Because they still have Bryce Callahan to slide into the slot for Chris Harris Jr. Maybe they pick up
Franchise tag
Prince
Justin
Amukamara.
Simmons. Yep.
Maybe pick up Prince Amukamara, who fits the Vic Fangio scheme from Chicago, somebody like that. And
Yep.
then just getting Glasgow in there, it allows them to maybe, have the potential to get a Henry Ruggs, a Justin Jefferson, somebody at 15, just one of those guys that could help improve Drew Lock, because the Broncos season is going to depend on Drew Lock. And it's kind of similar with the Browns. I mean, they went out and got him Austin Hooper, which at first I hated it. Making Austin Hooper the
Yeah,
highest
that's
paid tight
the
end in the
highest
league was
paid.
not a great idea. But it turned
Resetting
out
the
he wasn't.
contract market.
He
He
was on.
wasn't?
What was it? It was 4 years, 44 million, 23 guaranteed. So that's not that bad. I mean, still,
Okay.
he's a guy. I'm not really high on him. He's a guy that he kind of does. He runs like running back routes out the backfield. Like he sits in zones and runs underneath stuff. But they have Njoku to kind of take to be their move tight end and have him be the
Yeah,
traditional inline tight end. So hopefully that helps Baker Mayfield because the Browns. This is Baker's prove it year. If he can't prove it, it might be time to look somewhere else. So I think for those two teams, they won free agency for their quarterback, but those two quarterbacks have to produce for this to work.
yeah, I agree.
And
Yeah,
also
I
back to
mean,
Miami. I know we're kind of jumping around. Back to Miami. My thing with Miami is you got Eric Flowers, just a guy. You're doing all this on your
mhm,
defense, and if you draft two at 5, the offensive line is horrible. Like that's my problem with Miami is if you're drafting a young quarterback, you're setting him up for failure with guys like
mhm.
Jesse Davis at tackle. Julian Davenport is there. He got cut from the Texans. That's how bad he is. Like think about that. You got cut from
Yeah.
the Texans. The Texans offensive line is horrible, and he got cut from there. He's their starting tackle. So this is I don't think that I know that Dolphins fans want Tua, but if I was a GM of the Dolphins, I'm drafting straight
O
offensive linemen.
line.
And maybe if there's a quarterback that falls, maybe there's a Jake Fromm, some in the second, somebody like that. I'd rather have somebody like that I can move on from later than invest in a Tua or a Herbert with the fifth
Yeah,
pick when there's
I
more
agree.
positions of value. Like if you have a tackle, that can go a long way than getting an injury riddled quarterback like Tua.
Yeah, I mean, and also like to note it, they have 5 and 18, right? For their first two picks in the first round. Um, I feel like if Miami was to take a tackle, that would start the tackle run that it would go on. But if they don't pick a tackle, there's no way that there's going to be one that's like premier that can come in there and
Yeah,
help
they'd
you
be kind of
immediately at
reaching because
18.
there's the
Yeah,
big four. It's Wirfs, Thomas, Becton,
Thomas.
and who's the other guy?
Who's the other
And
guy, dude?
Wills, Jedrick Wills.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then there's Josh
So it's
Jones who could be a first rounder. Maybe they can get him at 18 or 26, something like
right.
that. But
But it's like if you don't take a tackle with your first pick, you're gonna miss out on all the ones that can come in there and protect you immediately. And it's I mean, I honestly if I was the Dolphins, you have all these good players now on defense, whatever, blah 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 blah. Um it's like at 18, pick a receiver and then just tank for Trevor next year. Like I wouldn't
or
go
even
Tua.
get an
Like I'm
edge
sorry,
rusher,
like
just something of
yeah,
value that could improve your team. Like you don't
yeah, like
necessarily have to get
honestly.
a quarterback immediately. That's
And
just how I
and
think.
it,
I'm thinking long term.
right.
Like they're not going to win a Super Bowl. You get to it right now, it's going to be bad for him. He doesn't have the
Mhm.
protection. I mean, they don't really. I mean, outside of Devontae Parker, they really don't have the best weapons. I mean,
Yeah, I
their
mean,
weapons
and
are
if
average.
Yeah. And like I was gonna say, if you don't want anyone at 18, or like, because you have 3 first round picks, if the guy you want is not there, trade back. This draft class is so deep at all kinds of
Yeah, somebody
positions.
will want to come up because they're so deep at receiver, or
Yep, the
even if
Eagles
the
might want to
DB
go from
starts
21 to
sliding.
18 for crying out loud. Yeah, exactly. Like teams are gonna be eager to get up, and it's like you honestly control the draft. Like you have 3 first round picks. There's no reason that you should be scared to like ask to make moves if you don't want a person. You know what I mean? Like you aren't competing, like Nick just said. You're rebuilding. You want to take as many picks as you can, and like if you want to draft back or like move back, move back. Don't be pressured to take a quarterback who's gonna be confused and like getting bullied around because your O line is terrible. Yeah, you need to
And
build
Tua is
like from
going
the
to need a
trenches
red
up.
shirt year most likely because I mean he's just coming off that hip injury, so we don't know what he's going to be. So
Right.
I mean, if I was the Dolphins, I would address the trenches on both sides of the ball. Just get or playmakers. Just get playmakers. Don't worry about the quarterback. Get the quarterback after you fix everything else. That's what I would do for
Mm-hmm.
Miami. And the Lions are kind of in a similar situation. Um, I mean, they gave out some big contracts too. I think they paid
Yeah,
Jamie
they did.
Collins. That makes sense. I mean, he's a Belichickian linebacker. Um, Today they're trying to trade Kennard. Um,
Yeah, I
and
saw that.
who else did they sign? I think they brought in Chase Daniel.
Yes,
So they
they
got
did.
some
Yeah, they did. They
insurance
did. They did.
for Stafford. But I just
Danny
think
Amendola on a 1 year deal.
The Lions, the big V contract. I mean, I can live with it because teams really want to fix that offensive line. But if you felt like you needed to tackle that bad, maybe trade down in the draft. Maybe just do
Yeah, right.
something. somebody would have
Trade.
wanted to come up at
Oh yeah.
3 to maybe get Tua. Maybe the Chargers want to come up at 3. Maybe the Panthers, maybe somebody, a surprise team we don't know, wants to come up to 3. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to hate on it because I do think he's a better player than Eric Flowers and Fant. So I'm not too mad about it. But
Yeah.
I think if you were the
Um.
only person in the market for him, you probably could have got him. I mean, I love these teams that are bringing back their own. Like I love the Colts for bringing back Costanzo, DJ Humphrey getting his deal,
Well, one
and
thing
oh yeah,
that
I mean,
I want to
since
point
we're on the
out.
offensive line,
Well, hold on one
I'll go
second.
ahead.
So the main thing with Big V was that he was getting a lot of trade offers from the Browns last year before the trade deadline. So maybe they were in a bidding war, and they just didn't want to overpay for Big V. So the
Uh,
Lions just were like, "Hey, take it." But yeah, the Browns last year were offering a lot for Big V, but we declined it. So that could have been a suitor that would
yeah,
have
and I mean,
probably been fine.
there's still some good tackles. I mean, Trent Williams is still in the market. He's a guy we haven't even talked about. Somebody could trade for him,
Oh
um,
yeah,
something of that nature.
Jason Peters is still
But
there.
I don't know
JP
what
is still
anybody
there.
would. Brian Bulaga is still there. He's a little
Yeah.
injury prone, but I
As you were
do
saying
think
though,
yeah, I like these teams for bringing back their own linemen because talking about the Cardinals, we didn't really talk about the Cardinals side of the trade from with the Hopkins deal. I think that's really good for them because
yeah,
you're getting your young quarterback a playmaker, and now that opens it up at 8 to where you don't necessarily have to take a receiver. I mean, a
you
lot
could
of
go
people are knocking
lineman.
CD Lamb. You could maybe take a tackle on either side of the ball. You could go trenches either side of the ball. You could trade down. You can get more picks. I think that puts them in a prime
I think the
position to
Eagles would
trade
love to
down.
do that.
And yeah, I mean, even going back there, they could still get somebody of value just because the Cardinals just they don't have any like they need an edge. Like not an edge rusher, but they need an edgy type player. Like they need a guy that can bring some toughness because everybody on that team is kind of finesse. Like you look at it like Kyler Murray,
Chandler
Hopkins isn't really that
Jones.
finesse, but like it's just they got like they kind of have like the star names: Patrick Peterson, Chandler Jones, Kyler Murray,
Yeah, Buda
Hopkins, a
Bakers,
Watch
people like that.
Fitzgerald. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think they could benefit from like a guy like maybe a Derek Brown or um, somebody on the O
someone who
line like a
talks
Tristan
crap.
Wirfs. Yeah, a Tristan Wirfs could be perfect for that Cliff Kingsbury get out and run type offense with the screen passes and stuff. So I mean, I
Yeah,
love it for Kyler. I think it's going to bring a lot of hype to the Cardinals though. So Kyler has to perform. So I mean, I'm ready to
might
see
feel
that
pressure.
challenge for him.
Well, what's good about it though is that he has Fitzgerald there, who's a great mentor, and he'll help him get through it. And also, Hopkins has a ton of experience. Guaranteed, it'll be his first year there. I think he could really be a big leader for that
Yeah,
line,
and they got a bunch of young receivers there like Christian
like
Kirk, Isabella,
Isabella, Christian Kirk.
Hakeem
Oh,
Butler,
Isabella's
who
gonna be
hasn't played
crazy.
yet.
Oh, I
Um,
forgot about him. That's right.
and I just think that they're using Isabella wrong. Like for me coming out, I thought he was kind of like a little bit of a Brandon Cooks type player, where like he's
Mm-hmm.
a deep threat, not really a slot receiver. If they played him on the outside and let him burn, and but then again you got Fitz playing in the slot, so you can't put Christian Kirk in the slot, who's a natural slot receiver. So
Yes, I
they'll
mean,
have to figure it out, but it's a good problem um,
yeah.
to have too many
I think
receivers.
after this year, we say bye to Fitzgerald, and then we
Yeah,
put
he'll
Kirk in
probably
the slot.
retire. And yeah, I mean that'll be good for them. Just having that number one now, having a guy that Kyler can legit look to and go to
Mm-hmm.
consistently outside of Fitz, because Fitz isn't really doing much after the catch nowadays. I mean, at least Hopkins, like he's not a
No,
burner by
yeah,
any means, but he's still a top 3 receiver. Oh, and
yeah.
another trade that we haven't talked about was the DeForest Buckner deal, and
I
I
was
actually
about to
think
talk
that
about
was a
that. Yeah.
win-win for both sides. The Colts, they're giving up the 13th pick, but they're getting a legit playmaker for that defense that they need. For the past couple
But my
seasons, they've been
question for
rolling out.
you,
They've been hang on, I'll get to it. They've been rolling
I
out these
got you.
undersized defensive tackles like D'Amico Autry and Marcus Hunt. Now they actually get a guy that's 300 plus, 6'7", and can rush the passer from the interior. So I think for the Colts it was a great move, and for the Niners it's a great move because you didn't have many picks. You don't have a second this year, and you gave up a third and a fourth for Emmanuel Sanders. So they have no picks. So now with 13 and 32, who knows? They could trade back and get a ton of picks. Maybe they pick somebody at 13. Maybe they get a Javon Kinlaw, Derek Brown. Maybe they take a receiver. I wouldn't take a receiver there because they're kind of similar to the Ravens and to where they want to attack the middle of the field with Deebo Samuel and their big tight end George Kittle. So I don't think receivers necessarily a huge need for them. So I would go with the interior. Maybe they take a tackle to replace Joe Staley. Maybe they go there. Maybe they just trade back and get a lot of picks.
Yeah, that was my question for you. Is what did they do with 13 and 31? But yeah, we answered that.
Oh
I
yeah, they had
guess.
31. My bad. Yeah, they would. I
Yeah,
think what would be best for them would be to trade back. Maybe a team like Philly, maybe Green Bay, a team that's thirsty for a receiver. They want to get in front of the Broncos who have interest in Henry Ruggs. I'd
yeah.
assume maybe
Honestly,
somebody that's going to be a hot spot to come up in the
yeah.
draft. So I feel like the Niners are in a good position
The
to
Niners
just
are smart for that.
reload.
They are
Yeah,
so
yeah, I
smart
do,
because
and
they know
they've
that
done a good
that's like
job.
what everybody wants. Everyone wants to get a pick. What is it? 10, right? Or is it 13? What is
13,
it?
13.
Yeah. Okay. Look, that's because we know that it's going to be quarterbacks and linemen going in the top 10. A lot of them. So that leaves you with a ton of skill positions going in. The top 15 people or from 10 to 15. And teams are going to pounce at that pick. So the Niners are really smart because not only do they have a lot of capital to trade with, but they're also competing still and then and contending. So they can get players to develop while they're still winning, and therefore that way, like when they're done contending, they still have great players to step up for players that are leaving, like Kittle in a few years, or Garoppolo. You know what I mean? Like they're building assets. I think it's a really smart idea.
Yeah, that's why I said it's a win-win because the Colts get an upgrade. They get an immediate impact player on the defense, somebody that can actually prove it that they're a proven commodity.
Yeah,
And then for the Niners, you can get more draft capital, and also they have Eric Armstead, who's a similar player that they were really interested in. They gave him a 5-year deal worth $85 million. He's in the
yeah.
similar mold. They're both 6'7", a little bit under 300 for Armstead, but I mean, I guess he could play inside on pass rushing
Well,
downs,
they
and he can
brought
play on the
back
edge.
Ronald Blair. They just
Yeah,
actually
yeah. So,
re-signed
so
him.
they have DJ Jones, a solid interior guy. They could add these interior guys and just have Armstead play on the edge on rundowns early and slide him inside and bring on D Ford and kind of have the same dynamic pass rush with having
Yeah,
Bosa and D Ford on the edge and him on the inside, or Bosa on the edge and Armstead. So I mean, it's just a great move, and also it allowed them to bring back Jimmy Ward, who was he emerged last year at free safety. He was a guy they played everywhere. They played him at nickel, outside corner, strong safety, but he found his niche at free safety, and I think it was a great deal bringing him back. I believe it was 3 years, around $32 million. So I think that's a good
something
deal
like
for
that.
them. Bringing back, just keeping the core together, and now they'll be able to add more young players, more pieces. And as we've seen, the Niners have been able to find guys later in the draft that have emerged, like a Dre Greenlaw, who was a late round draft pick. He was a really good pass coverage linebacker. Fred Warner, he was a third round, fourth round pick. So who knows what they can do with
Yeah,
13 and 31, getting more capital for their team.
I agree. Let's talk about players that haven't signed yet. So I have a few. I'm gonna name off, and we can talk about them. Okay. Let's talk about Logan Ryan. Logan Ryan, Desmond Trufant. That's really
Called
important
Chris
to me.
Harris,
Chris Harris Jr. Yep. People like what's his name? Joe Schobert hasn't
Clowney.
even signed yet. Clowney, Tom Brady. We already talked about him. And then there's also a few candidates as well. For trading. Like
Let's start
Yannick.
with Chris Harris and Clowney
All right, let's do it.
because I
So
feel like those are the
with
best
me,
two guys left.
yeah. Okay, so Clowney. Okay, premier edge rusher who he wants to go to New York, I've heard, but the Giants
Yeah,
don't want to pay that price tag. And
the
he's asking
Jets
for a
don't have the
lot.
capital.
So, yeah. So, I mean, like, where does he go now? You know what I mean? Where,
I've also
where,
heard
where
the
do you think
Jets
he's
have been
going?
linked to Dante Fowler Jr. Um, I think Clowney. I think the two prime spots for him are definitely the Colts. They have a lot of money. Well, I don't know
Yeah,
what
true.
they did pick up Phillip Rivers, so I don't know what the contract was. I don't know if the details for that have came out yet, but I know
I
the
don't think they
Colts have a
have.
lot of money, and if you have him and DeForest Buckner with Leonard, now you're kind of getting a legit defense in there. And Bobby
Yeah,
Okereke,
and
he's a
Hooker
second-year linebacker. He really was good in pass coverage this year. He's going to get better. Yeah,
Yep,
you got Malik
Hooker,
Hooker, your center
Rocky
fielder.
Sin,
Yeah,
yeah,
Rocky
receiver.
Sin in that coverage, that heavy cover two scheme, Tampa two scheme. Um,
Yeah.
And also the
I
Colts,
mean,
they
it's
have the
pretty good.
34th pick in the draft from the Redskins. So technically they're not really out of the first round.
No, not at
That's why I
all.
think it was a win-win for both teams. Sorry to just digress on that,
No, no,
but
no.
I think Clowney could go to the Colts or the Bills, a team with a lot of cap space that kind of needs somebody opposite of Jerry Hughes, who's getting up there. They lost Lorenzo Alexander as like that flex edge linebacker. Not saying Clowney can play that, but I mean, you know what you're getting with Clowney. You're getting a guy that's an elite run defender and a great pass rusher. So he's a hot
Yeah.
commodity. Somebody's going to want him. Um, I'm not as high on Clowney. Clowney is a very
Anymore.
polarizing player. I mean, you look at him and you're like, he should be on that Khalil Mack, Von Miller, Myles Garrett, Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa echelon of edge rushers, but he just always the production is not really there.
No.
So I mean,
Yeah.
if you have a lot of cap space, it's okay to overpay. Like a smart front office like the Colts, they could overpay. The Bills could overpay, but if I'm a team like the Jets, Giants, I wouldn't want to overpay.
Dolphins.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, we speaking of bad free agencies. I got to talk about the Giants, and then we'll get back to Chris Harris.
Oh, Blake Martinez.
Blake Martinez for $10 million a year for 3 years, $30 million. Dave Gettleman. Can we
David
please talk?
Mayo, 3 years.
Can we please talk? It is 2020. We do not value run stuffing linebackers like we used to. It's all about the Corey Littletons of the world, the Roquan Smiths, Devin White, Devin Bush, Isaiah Simmons type players. We don't value run defenders anymore. It's not smart. It's not 1986. We don't need to run the ball and stop the run. Okay. But on a serious note, the James Bradbury signing, I mean, I think it's a little bit of it's a slight overpay, but I mean, they kind of needed a corner. All their corners are really small, like DeAndre Baker's 5'11", Julian Love 5'11". So I think they needed that. They needed that matchup piece. And if you're getting Bradbury to match up against those bigger receivers, I think that's fine. He's kind of a guy similar to Xavier Rhodes, who got cut by the Vikings. So he's kind of similar in that mold to where if he's going against a Mike Evans, Mike Thomas, a bigger body receiver, a Mike Williams, somebody like that, he's going to look like an elite corner. He's going to look like an elite corner. But you put him up against a T.Y. Hilton and Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, those elite separators, he's going to look lost. So
let's go back to the Blake Martinez topic. Okay, here we go. Ready? Tight ends in the NFC East. We got Blake Jarwin, who's kind of getting into his own thing. Yeah, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert are going to have field days against Blake
Run
Martinez.
around him.
Yes,
Run
they are
around
going to
him.
make
Miles Sanders out the backfield. Mismatch.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. I think that they got Blake Martinez.
Who do the Redskins have? Who do they have? I don't even know who the Redskins have.
Darius
Geis, slot receiver.
Oh, slot receiver? It's not McLaurin, is it?
No, he's outside. So I don't even know. They're just going to have problems.
Yeah.
Crowder's on the Jets. He's their slot receiver forever. I always think he's a Redskin still.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, Blake Martinez was the worst pickup, and I know Nick hates Blake Martinez. It's just so funny to talk about.
I don't necessarily. I'm not going to say I hate Blake Martinez. It's just everybody. If you're looking at the box sheet, the tackles on the season, he's the best linebacker in the league. But when you watch the film, he's getting exploited. Like he's the reason that the Packers lost that game against the reason, but Kyle Shanahan attacked him every play against when he was on the field. He was getting attacked. So. I don't know what the Giants are doing, per usual.
Yeah. So avoiding the Blake Martinez topic, let's talk about what's his name, Chris Harris Jr. Where is he going to go? Yeah,
I think the prime two spots: Eagles, Packers, Bucks, teams that have these outside corners, but they need that inside corner. Now for Philly, he could probably play both.
No, because the Eagles have too many slot corners as it is. I think.
Yeah, that's why I said he could play in and out. He can still play in and out. But I think for Tampa Bay would be a perfect spot for him because they have Jamel Dean, who's a bigger outside corner. They have Murphy Bunting, outside corner.
Yeah,
and the Packers, they've got Kevin King, Josh Jackson. Well, I think they moved him to safety, but he can still kind of play corner. Jair Alexander, he can slide into the slot there. But yeah, for Philly, he could definitely be their outside corner, and he proved he can play outside a little bit last year. So.
Right, and
I think
of course, he is getting older. But hey, he still has a lot of pep in his step.
He still
He's
has those
still
instincts, and if you're asking him to play man to
yeah.
man on elite receivers, you're not going to get the best out of it. But if you're asking him to kind of sit back in a zone or man up in the slot or something of
Yeah,
that
you're
nature,
good then.
he's still a very valuable asset to have, and I think
Hmm.
he's definitely going to be the next corner to get paid
I hope
off the
so.
board. I mean, I don't really know who's left out there that like. I
For
mean,
the
you got Desmond
corners,
Trufant, who's
there's not much
interesting.
left. Bradley Roby, he's still there, but I
Uh,
mean Bradley Roby's not
Trey
important. Tremaine
Waynes, who's just a
Johnson, Trey
speedster.
Waynes,
Xavier Rhodes got cut, but
Desmond
I
Trufant.
don't know
Yeah,
what his market is.
one thing that
So I think
surprised
he's
me
the
was
next guy.
yeah. One other person as a corner who kind of like surprised me of getting released was Desmond Trufant. Falcons fans said that his play has digressed over the last 2 years, but I think he's still you know a low tier number one, a high tier number two player, kind of like
He's just been injured a
Bradbury.
lot. He hasn't really been on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I would say give him a chance. Of course, don't sign him. Day one or two of free agency, but see
Yeah,
what the
but I mean
market ends up
that's the
being.
best. I think that's the best way to attack the corner position is not necessarily throw big money at a guy like James Bradbury, but maybe throw a 1 year deal at a guy like Jason Verrett who has
Yeah.
injury concerns. But if he works for 1 year, it's a great deal. A guy like a Jimmy Smith that Baltimore's letting go, who has injury concerns. Throw low investment, high rewards at these injury prone veteran guys that can maybe overperform, and then you look like you made a great move. And if it doesn't work, oh well, it's a 1 year deal. He's gone. You just cut your
Mm-hmm.
losses instead of investing in a guy that's not necessarily
Oh,
proven.
here we go. We got two signings that just happened. Kamu Grugier-Hill, ex-Eagles linebacker, really good special teamer, going to Dolphins, and then Jalen Mills going back to the Eagles on a 1 year deal, which I'm not a fan of, but that's for a different episode. I'm sorry to cut you off here.
No,
Let's
it's all
talk
right.
about some receivers now, okay? Amari Cooper got a big deal, $100 million for 5 years. That was
Mm-hmm.
expected, but
They had to.
yeah, they had to. But like, he says that he wanted to stay in Dallas to get a bowl, and I heard that he was offered a bunch more money for the Redskins. And I mean, honestly, I don't blame him for not picking the Redskins, but I mean, man, like. You're not going to win a Super Bowl in Dallas with Dak Prescott as your quarterback. I hate to tell it to you, but that's not Dak Prescott's team. That's Zeke's team, and Zeke is going to carry them as far as they can go, and that O-line. But I mean, he did deserve that that money. Um, they have Michael Gallup as a number two, but I just don't think that they're going to go far or much further with him because we've seen how far that they could go playoffs, but like how much further can they go with their team they have right now?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if Dak isn't willing to take this deal, like they've offered him, I think it
Move
was
on.
rumored they offered yesterday. A report came out they offered him more than Wentz and Goff, and he still turned it down because he wants 4 years, not 5 years. And I'm just like, Dak, you've made no money. You're in Texas. Just take the long term deal. Like you have to
Right.
essentially, like I know you have to know your worth. Like and it's screwing the Cowboys because the longer they wait, you got Deshaun Watson coming up, Patrick Mahomes coming up, and these are guys that are going to break the bank because they're elite tier quarterbacks. Dak is a solid quarterback. He's not he's Kirk Cousins. He's that type of quarterback to where like he's good enough to win you games, but if you could upgrade, you would. And if Jerry Jones, I'm definitely looking to if he doesn't want to re up, I'm looking to move on because I can't keep franchise tagging him and paying him 33 million for no reason. Like I just don't
Yeah.
think
No,
it's
I agree.
necessarily good value for the team. And Dak just
Yeah.
has to know that. I don't know, like if he would have taken that deal. I mean, it's just the Cowboys. They're a mess. Like Zeke Elliott. Zeke Elliott taking all that money up for Byron Jones. It's just mind boggling to me that Zeke jumped in front of guys like that, like Amari Cooper and Byron Jones, 2 years before his deal was up. Yes, I know he's a running back, but all signs point that Jerry Jones loves Zeke, and Jerry Jones is going to take care of Zeke. So I don't know why Zeke did that. It's going to hurt the team because now the Cowboys, they're put in a position where they need a corner bad. Like you can't roll into the season with Awuzie and who's the slot guy? What's his name? Jordan
Woods?
Lewis.
No, not Woods.
Jordan
Jordan
Lewis
Lewis.
as your 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And now
That's not
you're in a
gonna.
position to where you can't take BPA. You need a corner. You have to address this corner position. So at 17, you're looking at a guy like Christian Fulton, Trayvon Diggs, and and it's just a mess. But I do the Amari Cooper contract. That's fine. If you're gonna if a
Yeah,
receiver's gonna reset the market, at least it's a guy that is a proven commodity. He's
that's
an elite
respected.
separator. He does have drop issues, but you can deal with the drops when you're getting that open. If you're not getting open and you're a contested catch type of receiver and you're dropping the ball, that's a problem. But we've
Yeah.
seen throughout his career, he's always been able to get open. He's one of the best route runners in the league. So I think for Dallas, it was a smart move, but they have to figure out this Dak Prescott situation because it's not going to get any easier to sign him. So they have to get this done quick because if they wait until the Mahomes deal and the Watson deal is done,
That's
Dak is
gonna
going to
look
ask for
nasty
45 million, 40 million,
per
something
year.
outlandish like that. And I don't think he's worth that at all. He's a solid
I
quarterback.
know.
If Dak would take 28 to 33 million, I'm fine with that. Like it's an overpay, but I understand you want to keep your quarterback. Quarterbacks don't grow on trees. But
Yeah,
if
but
in a,
it's
in a,
not
in
like
a
he's the
world, if
cream
I
of the
could
crop.
have Andy Dalton and Byron Jones and Amari Cooper
Amari
and
Cooper, I'm
Zeke
taking him.
Elliott and that offensive line, I mean, what's the difference? I bet they still go
Even
10 and
Case
6.
Keenum. Yeah, I mean,
Like even in a
maybe not
dream
Case
scenario,
Keenum,
like
but like
we've never
you
seen
just need a
like
role playing quarterback with that kind of team for sure.
I'm just not that high on Dak. I
Yeah,
like him. Great story. He's a leader. He says everything right. He's everything you want in a franchise quarterback. It's just he doesn't have the play of a franchise quarterback. He's not consistently um,
hmm
doing things that they need to win.
Oh, here we go. So they brought back Jalen Mills because we're not bringing back Rodney McLeod, and he's going to move to safety. They just said from ESPN, which is a great thing because he played safety, I believe, in college, and
Mills is
he's
moving to
actually better
safety.
fit. Yeah, Mills is moving to
Oh, that's a
safety
great
full
pick.
time.
I was gonna say like he's been getting toasted. Like he's not a
Yeah,
natural
no,
corner.
yeah. So that means that we're still in the market for a good corner, hopefully. But yeah, Mills I think was always better at just tackling and playing in a certain zone rather than being stuck on an island because we've seen what Cooper has done to him with those double moves. But yeah, I mean that's way better than having him stay at corner. And sorry to bring you off topic, but I mean that just
No,
kind of
it's all
made
right.
more
It's all
sense to
right.
me.
No, if you want, we could kind of talk about the Grugier Hill because he's a guy on your team, so you kind of know about
Oh
him.
yeah,
I mean, I think
yeah.
for the
Grugier
Dolphins,
Hill,
it's a solid move on a 1 year deal. I
it
mean,
is
I'd rather
solid.
get a guy like that on a 1 year deal than what they've done before. I mean,
Yeah, like
I'd rather just
Grugier
if you're
Hill.
Miami, just throw 1 year deals at guys and see if they're worth it. Like, you don't necessarily have to.
Yeah, Grugier Hill came in, from the Patriots, came in as a safety, so he's a really good hybrid player for them. Lining up next to Roquan, and I think who else is it there? McMillan and who else?
Not DeAndre Baker, Jerome Baker.
Jerome Baker. Yeah, having him be like rotational with them, whatever it might be, not a bad pickup. He's really good for special teams, and that might be why they got him in the first place. But yeah, not bad. He's really fast. He was a captain for us, so he's not a bad locker room person. I think I wish him all the best there. I think it won't be a bad fit for him at all, though. I think after this season they'll keep him around for longer for sure.
So, yeah.
Um, yeah.
Anything
So
else? Any other free agents?
uh, let's just shortly touch on Manuel Sanders and his market. Just real quick. We know that Sanders, he makes plays. He is getting older, and he's asking for a lot of money. But like, where else would he go besides back to the Niners? You think?
I think a team like Green Bay, who has a bunch of big receivers, they don't necessarily have a
Mm-hmm.
slot guy. I think he could fit in there. Maybe a Tampa Bay, but that's really getting luxurious because they have so much talent already.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know
Matter
who
of
else needs
fact,
a slot receiver.
yeah. And then,
And
I
also
mean, that was just
before
a small
we
one to
need to
talk
talk about the
about.
quarterbacks too that got signed, like
I was gonna say,
Bridgewater and Ryan
yeah,
Tannehill,
QBs
Drew Brees,
and Javon
Mariota.
Hargrave.
Oh yeah, Javon Hargrave. Let's talk about Javon Hargrave since we're talking about Eagles so much.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, Javon Hargraves. You
As a
know more
guy
about him than
that's
I
seen
do.
him, yeah, I was about to say, as a guy that's seen him in the division, um, he's a very good. He's a great run stopper. a good pass rusher. So he brings that versatility. He could play on three. He's a 3-down interior lineman, which is
Mm-hmm.
a luxury to add next to Fletcher Cox, who's already a 3-down lineman. And I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand it, but you can have the Eagles are really forming a nice interior rotation of linemen
Yep.
with those two, with Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, and Malik Jackson.
Malik
And
Jackson.
Malik Jackson, he's played on the edge before. In Jacksonville, they kind of line him up as a 5 technique, which is over the tackle. Um, so he could play first down, second down, Michael Bennett role of being a
Right.
run defender
And
on the edge instead of having a guy like Derek Barnett out there who's more of a pass rusher. Well, I don't know if he's good against the run, but
what's
just in
important
theory.
though to note is that, with Jim Schwartz, D linemen don't play every snap. Like with him, he rotates players in every 2 snaps. So, you can have Fletcher Cox in on 1st and 10, but he might come out for someone else. And, you can move Brandon Graham into like the 3 technique for like 2 downs. You know what I mean? So it's not like, it's just those 3 guys. And I'm not saying that you were saying that. I'm just saying like it's really important to have
Yeah,
people
no,
that
they
can
use a
come in and
rotation.
be
So
fresh. Yeah.
I mean, still,
But
that's the most valuable thing. If you can get a guy that can create pressure and up the middle, that's the worst for quarterbacks is having a guy that can, like we've seen how Aaron Donald wrecks games and Chris Jones, what he did in the Super Bowl. Just seeing these interior pass rushers, if you can bring that value from the interior, it's worth paying. So I know, in theory, you see a nose tackle getting paid $30 million. You're like, wow, like what my team did. I wasn't really a fan of the Ravens signing Michael Brockers to a $30 million deal, but a guy like Javon Hargrave who brings that ability to get after the quarterback from the middle,
yeah.
that's a lot of value next to a guy in Fletcher Cox who demands double teams. So now you're getting him one on one with guards, and I think that's just the nastiest interior combo that I could think of at the moment because there's nobody next to Aaron Donald right now.
No, not at all.
So
I mean, maybe the
I think
Ravens
it's a great move.
with Brockers and your boy, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
with
don't know.
Brockers, I mean, sorry to talk about the Ravens. Like the Brockers deal, like I wasn't really a big fan of it. I like the Calais Campbell move because you gave up a 5th-round pick, but we're already
Oh yeah.
paying Campbell a lot, and I don't really know. Campbell played best on the edge in that Seattle scheme that Jacksonville was running, so I don't know what his
Hmm.
fit is as a 3 tech. He's better on the edge. He's good as a 3 tech. So I mean, he just
Yeah.
the Jaguars just paid Joe Schobert 5-year deal,
Really?
$53 million.
Wow. You
$22
see,
and a
what's
half million
crazy?
dollars.
Wow, the Jaguars. So wait, but don't they already have? Hold on. So they have Miles
We don't know
Jack.
if Telvin Smith is coming back because he
Okay,
retired.
gotcha.
So they don't.
One other thing
Maybe
that I just saw
he's
on my
not coming
phone.
back. Maybe he's the odd man out.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, who knows, right?
Maybe he comes available during trade. But
I saw something
we'll
else
talk about.
crazy.
We'll finish what we're talking about, and then we can talk about Joe Schobert and his big contract.
Yeah, so let's talk about the quarterbacks now. So I just got an alert saying that Tom Brady almost walked out on the Patriots last year at training camp before they gave him a raise. That's pretty crazy. So that tells me that he didn't want to come back at all, and only the money was like the reason that he came back. That's just crazy to me. We have talked about we've talked enough about Tom Brady tonight. Let's move on to someone else though. Let's talk about Mariota. Okay, backup for the Raiders to Derek Carr. Maybe not if they move Derek Carr, but how do you feel about that, Nick? Was
Well,
that
I
a
mean, the
smart
thing
choice?
is they're very similar players. Mariota's more athletic, but they're both in that same mindset to where they're really safe with the football. They're not going to take those chances. They're going to check it down, not use their mobility, even though they're kind of mobile. So they're kind of similar. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think it's a good move to bring in somebody to compete with Derek Carr, maybe get him out of that slump. And who knows, maybe you get a Ryan Tannehill situation with Mariota and he revives his career. Um,
Yeah, right.
so I mean, I think it's a good move, but
Change of
I
scenery.
don't know. I don't know if it necessarily moves the needle for the Raiders. If I was them, I'd still be
Yeah.
looking for an upgrade at quarterback. Um, if I could get a
I don't know
Jordan
about
Love,
getting one this year though. Okay, well, aside from Jordan Love, yeah, but I don't
if I
know.
can get a
But
Jordan
Jake
Love, maybe
Fromm's not
two
an
slips in
upgrade.
the draft. Yeah, no, I wouldn't get a Jake Fromm or I mean, I wouldn't touch
Jacob
Justin Herbert at
Eason.
all. I'm not a fan of any of
Yeah.
those two. To me, they kind of scream that Paxton Lynch, Blake Bortles type quarterback where they have all the
Trevor
traits you look for, but
Simeon.
they just don't have it. So
Yeah.
I would stay away from those two. I mean, if you can get a guy like Jordan Love at 13 or maybe a Tua, I would consider that. But they did the best they
Yeah.
could. I thought they were a team that could potentially get into Tom Brady sweepstakes, but they're standing
No,
pat
now
with.
it's just between Tom Brady and the Chargers. Crazy. Or Tampa Bay, not Tom Brady and the Chargers. Moving on to the next quarterback, let's talk about Jameis
Talk
Winston.
about
He
Tannehill or
is
Jameis.
or Tan here. Well, let's go Tannehill first. Tannehill, that's crazy. Overpaid, but the Titans haven't had a someone like that in a long time, so they went with him, and I don't blame them. But like, Tannehill's not going to get any better. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he has weapons, but he's not going to get much better. I feel like from where he is right now. But 4 years, 118 million. If the Titans felt good, locking him up for that long, and if they, they might have overpaid for him, but if they're happy, then go for it. That's my take on
I
him.
saw a breakdown of the contract. Technically, they can get out of it after the first year. So they could cut him
Really?
after this year. But if they don't cut him after this year, it becomes a 3-year deal. So they can get out after the first year, but if they keep him for the second year, they have to keep him for the third, or they take a massive cap hit. So
Okay.
it's technically a 3-year deal with 62 million guaranteed, and it's a 118 total. So at first, I thought it was a Nick Foles type contract where,
Ooh,
like, wow, like, you messed up.
here we go.
What just happened? Did somebody just
Breaking
get
news:
signed? Or
Dolphins make the first move on offense, signing the first running back, Jordan Howard, ex-Eagles running back. So they get Jordan Howard.
okay,
Yeah. Pretty surprising. I
that's a
didn't see that
surprise.
happening.
It's the first running
Yeah.
back off the board. They needed a running back.
But
They didn't really have anybody, so
yeah.
that's good for them. But back to
Kenyon
the
Drake.
quarterback.
Yeah.
Um,
We were
we were
talking
talking about
about
Tannehill. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a
Tannehill,
bad
3
deal, but
years.
he's a guy that the franchise tag would have been perfect for.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because it's kind of like a Dak situation to where Derrick Henry is the engine of that offense. You're
It
not
is a
doing much without Derrick Henry.
exactly.
So
You're not.
I don't think like they paid him a lot of money, but if he can, open up the game. The thing with him versus Mariota is he's willing to take those chances though. Like we've seen
Mm-hmm.
him like open up like when he got in there, AJ Brown
Chuck it deep.
emerged.
Go crazy.
We saw Jonnu Smith emerge. So I do think that I would have franchise tagged him, but I'm not mad at the deal because it's technically a 3-year deal. So that gives them time to be able to look for the next quarterback while still
Right.
having stability at the position to where they're not in a situation like the Patriots where you have a guy like Jared Stidham coming into the camp right now as your starting quarterback. So, I mean, I like it.
Okay.
So
I see it.
we'll see.
So Teddy B just got a deal, 3 years, I think 30-some million or 50 million, whatever it might be, to the Panthers. That just screams to me we're rebuilding. We don't know what we're doing. We're going to rebuild.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for McCaffrey.
I do too. If I was them, I'd be looking to trade him soon while his value is still really high. It's not an indictment on him, but it's just you're committing to being bad. They don't have that much talent. DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, the offensive line is in shambles. They picked up Russell Okung, but they gave up another guy. It was a rare lineman for lineman trade. I think Teddy Bridgewater is a perfect, like no pun intended, he's a great bridge quarterback. So you could find that next guy while you have Teddy. And Teddy's contract isn't that bad. It's rumored to be $20 million a season. So I agree that they're definitely rebuilding, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is a team they could end up in the Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields sweepstakes next year by the time the draft rolls around. Because you look at that division, I mean, I think the Falcons will definitely be better than this year. The Saints are still there, and the Bucks should be getting Tom Brady.
Bucks. Hello. They might be a threat to like the Niners.
Did he really sign there or?
No, well, I'm saying like.
Oh, you're just in theory. Okay.
Yeah, like that really could be like. No, like no. I'm saying that they could be a threat to the Niners. Like that could be scary. That would honestly, I mean, like Tampa Bay was already almost a playoff team if Winston would have just been a little bit smarter. But I think that if they do get Tom Brady, they would be a playoff team. But
Oh, for
question for you
sure.
though.
They would be in that wild card or
Yeah, or win the
have
South.
home. Yeah.
So a question.
Hang on, I'm trying to clean up that Jordan Howard. Go ahead, ask me the question.
No, you're good. If I'm the Panthers and I'm rebuilding, am I gonna try and get a first round pick for McCaffrey, or no?
I think you can whatever. I mean, the market for him, you probably could snag a late one for a guy like that because he's still under contract for a couple more years.
And he literally he's an
He's a
offense by
receiver.
himself.
Yeah, he's an offensive
Yeah.
weapon. I wouldn't clarify him just as a running back. So I think he's a guy that could reset the running back market, and he's definitely changing the game for college running backs. Like you're seeing guys like move from receiver to running back, like Antonio Gibson from Memphis, who's a freak. He ran with the receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he ran with the running backs, but if he would have ran with the receivers, he would have stole the show. He's a guy similar to like a Laviska Shenault, but his hands aren't as good. But he could break tackles and he could be that threat. So I think that's just the way the NFL is going. We're looking for these guys that aren't just traditional Leonard Fournette style running backs. We're looking for the guys that are more of a Miles Sanders or a Josh Jacobs hybrid type players that can do both. So
Yeah.
McCaffrey could definitely get a late one or something of that nature. Oh, a 2-year deal worth $10 million. Okay. For Jordan Howard and the Dolphins.
It's not bad. All right. Well, I mean, is there much more to go around right now? That's popping right now.
The deal is, I mean, let's talk about the running back market. I mean, it's surprising that Jordan Howard was the first guy off the board when you got guys
Let's
Melvin Gordon.
Freeman's still there. Melvin Gordon's still there.
Melvin Gordon. Yeah.
We did see also Austin Eckler had a 4-year, $24.5 million deal.
So I like that for the Chargers. That's a great move for the Chargers.
So I mean, the question is though, are players like gonna ask for that aside from because Jordan Howard knows his role. He knows that he's not gonna be like I mean maybe in Miami he would be, but Jordan Howard's not like what Austin Eckler was.
He's your Leonard Fournette style running back.
Right. So I mean, there's players out there still, like Dion Lewis, who's a great third down back. Melvin Gordon, he's the face of that running.
Melvin Gordon's a three. Yeah, he's a three down running back. But I just think he hurt himself holding out. If he would have played the whole season, his value would have been a lot higher. And maybe a team that's like on the verge that has a young quarterback. Maybe the Colts would have been interested if they would have kept Jacoby Brissett to have an identity to their offense or somebody like that. But
also, you have people like Sean McCoy, who's super old,
and and it hurts that there's a deep running back class this year with guys with Swift,
AJ Dillon,
Dillon, Taylor,
Etienne,
Dobbins.
Oh, no, not Etienne.
Etienne went back to school. Yeah, if he would have came out, he would have been up there. Like it's just a deep running back class. Benjamin, guys like that. So I think that's really just killing this market, and it's kind of sad because these guys don't get their second contract. But it's just that it's so easy to find a running back. It's not saying that teams don't need a running back. It's just easier to find a running back than it is to replace a receiver or a tackle or a quarterback because there's so many good ones that come out of college every year. Like every year there's a guy that is drafted in like the 5th round that is really good. Like Jordan Howard, his rookie year, I think he was like second or he led the league in rushing for Chicago. Like you just find these guys, Kareem Hunt, 3rd round pick, Alvin Kamara, 3rd round pick. Like you could find these guys later in the draft that turn out to be very good players. Another guy, Devin Singletary, late round pick.
Yep. This right here might be a little crazy. Actually, you can go and go first. Well, it was just like a rumor that's going on. According to NBC Sports Philly, the Eagles and Lions have called and are showing interest in Broncos DB Will Parks. Will Parks is from North Philadelphia too. So I don't know. Isn't he a safety, right?
Yeah, he's pretty versatile.
I don't see that happening now.
He's more of a safety.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, back to the running backs. We're talking about Melvin Gordon still. So sorry to cut you off.
I just don't know what to do. Like to fix the running back problem. Because because like you see Derrick
Right.
Henry getting franchised, King Drake getting the transition tag.
Yeah.
Deion
I
Lewis
don't
got
know.
released. Freeman
It is tough.
released.
Lamar Miller's
Todd
hanging out
Gurley's on the
there.
trade market right now. People are trying to like the Rams are trying to trade
Yep.
Todd Gurley. So I think it's just
Yeah,
the way
like
the
this
league
makes you
is
think
going.
too. It's crazy. Like, Corey Clement, he was you know, a big he was an undrafted free agent that we got for that the Eagles got. And he was great the whole first season he was there. Actually, he scored a touchdown and I think had over 150 yards total in the Super Bowl, and it was pretty crazy. But it just shows you like running backs are not valued. You can literally just rinse and reuse them. We draft you, goodbye. Thanks for your 4 years,
Oh,
and
another
it's just
receiver
crazy.
that I want to hit on. Two of
Who is
them
it?
actually that are pretty intriguing. Robbie Anderson and Demarcus Robinson. Two guys
Smart.
that are Robbie Anderson, elite deep threat. Rumors are he's going back to the Jets. But if he didn't go to the Jets, I think Eagles, Packers, basically all the receiver needy teams could use a
Yeah.
guy like this, number two, take the top of the defense type guy. So he's a guy that
Yeah.
I'd like to see where he ends up. Demarcus Robinson from the Chiefs, kind of just the odd man out, their fourth receiver. He could bring value to those teams as well. Just trying to look around, see if there's anybody we want to talk about.
Yeah. Actually, well, one thing also going back to the whole Jalen Mills thing. We hired, I think, the old Falcons DBs coach. I forget his name. But he converted two cornerbacks into starting safeties, which was Ricardo Allen and Demonte Casey. So there
The
isn't
Eagles just announced. Sorry to interrupt. The Eagles just announced that they
who
will
is it?
not exercise Malcolm Jenkins' contract.
So
So
he's a free
Malcolm
agent
Jenkins
now.
is now a free agent.
Wow, that's actually well, the whole reason about that though is because he wanted to make over 10 million a year and he's getting into his 30s. I mean, guaranteed he can still he could play linebacker, safety, slot, like he could do anything, and that's really like surprising to me. He was our captain, like that's crazy. Wow. You know what? The Eagles want to get younger, and I'm okay with that. But does that mean? Well, actually, matter of fact, this explains why they're calling about Will Parks. Because maybe would you move Jalen Mills to
Yeah,
free safety now?
yeah,
You
because
know what I mean?
he's kind
Like
of that hybrid.
that's crazy. I don't know. That's really weird to me. I mean, that's some pretty big shoes to fill. Mills has been known for being, a vocal player on defense, so maybe he does take that role over. But that's just crazy. Where do you think Jenkins could go now? Because he
Um,
wants 10 million a year. He wants 10 million.
Probably a
So what
team
team
like
that's contending wants to go to
Miami
the Colts?
or
The Colts.
somebody with a lot of space. The Colts could use him because they got that. They have a true center fielder. Malcolm Jenkins is more of that box safety hybrid nickel. So I think that
Yeah, that's
he could
wild.
fit with the Colts. I'm trying to think of where else like if there's any connections with previous defensive coordinators or something like that. But the Eagles have had the same guy.
Yeah, we've had him for I think as long as he's been. Actually, no, we had this other guy who was terrible. He's out the league now, but yeah, that's crazy to me. I mean, that's just like Malcolm Jenkins. We got him back in like 2014, and no one even knew about him. He was such a quiet pick, and he turned out to be
Mm-hmm.
like a huge locker room presence. That's just crazy to me. That's wild. I
Yeah,
mean,
so overall, to kind of wrap up the episode, we could talk about some winners and losers, I guess, just to kind of wrap it up.
sure, let's
So who
do
do
it.
you think won free agency? And this
Who
can
won free
include the
agency?
trades. It can
Okay.
include the trades.
Honestly, I'm saying the Cardinals won. That's my main winner. The Cardinals easily won. I mean, you take, you give Kyler Murray a top tier receiver, and you don't give up nothing but a second round pick and David Johnson. You're winning that. And then also like they have young players to build around. They brought back Fitz. I think they won. How about you?
For my winners, I'm going to go Browns and Broncos. I know I alluded on it earlier, but they really hit the two best offensive linemen that were available in the market, and those are tremendous upgrades. My first loser, I'm gonna say, I just hated it. The Texans lost, Giants lost. I'm sure those are the same for both of us. Miami, I say Miami's a loser for spending so much money on average players. Um, who else?
Loser as well. The Giants. The Giants are losers.
Yeah, I had the Giants. I had the Giants, and going forward, talking about what? Oh yeah, I mean the Bears. I think the Bears are a loser. I know we really didn't talk about it, but I hate the Jimmy Graham contract. Like you played him twice a
Yeah,
year. You've seen how bad of a player he's become. He's not prime Jimmy Graham. You're already paying Trey Burton a buttload of money. Like, what was the thought process behind bringing in another guy that for 2 years, 60 million, 9.7 guaranteed? Just I hated that. The Robert Quinn thing, I'm not really I don't know if he can necessarily. I don't know if he's gonna fit that 3-4 scheme now. I know he could when he was
for
younger, but
sure.
he's aged, so I don't know if he's lost a step. I don't know if he can be asked to drop into coverage on occasion out of that scheme. So I think the Bears. I didn't really like the Bears free agency, and there's rumors that they're going to try to trade for Nick Foles. They don't have a lot of capital, anyways. So the Bears are just in a bad situation because they stuck with Mr. Trubisky too long. I think when you know the quarterback's not the guy, you got to move on. It's a perfect example. It ruined the Jaguars. It's ruining the Bears currently. So I think they're losers. And the Robert Quinn contract was kind of outlandish, 5 years, $70 million for a guy that's already in his 30s. So hopefully they front loaded it.
Yeah,
The
I
Redskins
mean,
are signing Bears linebacker Kevin Pierre-Louis, but that's not that important. Um,
no.
he's an underrated player. He's a good pass coverage linebacker, but he's not moving the needle. Um,
Yeah.
but we'll probably be back tomorrow, maybe tonight with another episode, just depending on what happens throughout the day. So thank you guys for listening, and we're all going to be waiting to see where Tom Brady, Jadeveon Clowney, and all these top tier guys go. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please leave a comment. Let us know your winners and losers. Let us know how you liked the episode, what we can improve on. And as always, we'll see you guys next time.